Hey, what's up everybody? Cow Kings here with another fantastic and exciting video. And in today's video, we are going to be power scaling Spec, one of the death row inmates. So, right from the get-go, what we're looking at here is a good example of just how strong Spec is. We're introduced to this guy who's going to go taco Spec, and he's a karate black belt. So to earn a black belt, usually on average, you're looking at having to go to classes at least 2 times per week to earn one in about 5 years. So to start off, the average man, even those who are amazing at combat, not just the average man, but really anybody who's not one of the Baki characters, are going to get fucked up by Spec in one hit. As mentioned here, hits this dude that went to see him with a straight punch and completely rearranged his face. It should also be mentioned that Spec is very good at escaping, as we can see by the statement in this panel here. So this man tells him, hey, forget all that stuff about being a karate black belt. This dude before him was an all-American wrestler. And if you need to know how impressive that is, so how is an all-American determined? So what happens is determined in the national championship. So NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships. That is going to determine the Division I All-American team, right? And so the top 8 finishers in each weight class are the ones who are going to qualify for All-American status. So no doubt going to be your top of the food chain wrestlers. So we can see why he had to take off all his shit, like his belts and stuff. Because Spec uses something inside of his mouth that he's going to use to escape. And is able to get him from the roof and kill him just with ease. Pulls him up just like that by his neck with one hand. So next, we're going to get to 2 very impressive things. As we can see, they're talking about he will inevitably die in 5 minutes. And we're talking about how long and how far under Spec is under the water. So here's 2 things really impressive about this. So when it comes to Navy SEALs, typically they practice for this. They do breath holding drills. And it's used to condition a swimmer to build confidence, right? When going through high surf conditions at night. So it typically goes for 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes more. But let's say the average is 2 to 3 minutes holding underwater. Now, not just that, but Spec seems to not suffer what's called decompression sickness, which is a disorder in which nitrogen dissolved in the blood and tissues by high pressure forms bubbles as pressure decreases. And usually the symptoms will include stuff like fatigue and pain in muscles and joints. But somehow, someway, Spec has not suffered decompression syndrome or sickness. Spec arrives in Tokyo, Japan. And guns, obviously, are not a problem for him. His pain tolerance is crazy high. As you can see, grabs that dude's gun and just puts a bullet through his cheeks. And then blows out the smoke like nothing, like a Giga Chad, really. Spec offers his hand to Baki, which seems to be a harmless handshake. But as we can see, it's a dismembered hand. And it appears, by what he says here, that that hand belongs to somebody that Baki loves or knows. Which implies a few different things. One, that Spec does his research, is able to find out intel on opponents, and that he can do it quite quickly. He didn't know about Baki until, a few days ago? Maybe weeks at best. When Spec breaks out of his cell, goes for a piss, Sonada encounters him, and if you want to call it a fight, they fight. Now, Sonada is a high-ranking police official who has control over pretty much all of the police force, or at least the cops below him, a good grand majority of them. And he's a black belt in judo. But again, all the world-class athletes are world-class punching bags in the universe of Baki with the Baki logic. Not too long after, Spec goes to attack Baki, and Hanayama greets him and takes him somewhere else. Spec begins unloading on Hanayama, just going at him, using rocks, using shoes, everything he can to hurt Hanayama. And as we can see, it is having a physical effect on Hanayama. Now, any of the other less durable fighters are going down, but Hanayama is known for his rough brawler fighting style of being able to tank a motherfucking punch. And look at that shit. Also, Spec picks up a bench and hits Hanayama so hard that he breaks the whole fucking thing. Hanayama, still ready to fight, gets in his pose, as does Spec. They get in a similar pose, which shows they have a similar idea to how to approach fighting. As we can see here, the Statue of Liberty got clapped, and it was done by Spec using his apnea rush. Now Spec tries that same shit on Hanayama, and while effective somewhat, was not nearly enough. As you can see, these are the elites of the elites. And as seen here, their gear is far stronger than the average gear. They're also equipped with some very powerful guns. So they began to try to fight Spec. As you might find out, it's just not working. Spec no-sells it. Not just no-sells it, but look at him. He's taking cannonballs to the face. And he crushes. Doesn't just kill the dude, but like crushes the helmet inwards. The same helmet that's supposed to be able to take 5 times more durability than the other helmet that's supposed to prevent whiplash. The entire suit is designed. And these are elite troops that have gone through hundreds of days of training, literally. Can't do anything against Spec. But now let's cut back and we can see that one of Hanayama's punches was just way too much for Spec. Fucking floored him. But he's still standing. Hanayama again hits him hard as fuck. And again, Spec gets hit. Again. So, another thing Spec's good at is cunning tactics. When Hanayama picks him up and he asks, "Are you done?" Spec says, "Yeah." And Hanayama drops his guard, and that's when Spec puts some bullets in his mouth and causes him to ignite. As we can see, the damage is immense. Anybody else is going down, but Hanayama is known for his toughness. Spec gets hit once again, and this time, he's sent off and electrocuted, and the fight's over. Or, at least, it seems that way. Hanayama's getting ready to leave when he drops off Spec at the police station. And Spec somehow finished off all the guards inside without any of them hearing or seeing it, and collects all their weapons. Comes out and flips over the car. He then proceeds to curb stomp the fuck out of Hanayama. Uses a baton, hits him so hard that he bends it. And when Hanayama tries to swing at him, uses a gun and shoots him in his knee. Spec keeps shooting him. And as he mentioned, it's a death fight. The fight wasn't over until he died. Hanayama mistook that and left Spec off before finishing him like he should have. Spec proceeds to kick the shit out of Hanayama, knock him around, and again, starts shooting him some more. Some more curb stomps. I mean, my goodness. But that's when it all goes bad. When he tries to put the gun in Hanayama's mouth, he turns so the bullet would shoot up from his mouth, out from the cheek. And Hanayama starts laying into Spec, punches him. Again, Spec is prepared. Uses a flashbang on hanayama. Now this is where we get to see some great combat ability. He uses a good rear naked choke. Not perfectly executed, but still a very well rear naked choke. And as mentioned, anybody else is going to be finished. But it just so happens that hanayama has an incredible grip strength to deal with this. Hanayama's not done though. Rips out a piece of Spec's thigh. Spec responds by sticking his finger in the ear and hitting way back in there. And it clearly affects hanayama. But that's when hanayama grabs Spec by the throat and finishes him. We see Spec old as a motherfucker, which implies longevity. 97 years old, and yet Spec looked much younger when he was looking for defeat. So, decelerated aging could be argued for Spec for an indefinite period of time if he was constantly looking for defeat. He was in perfect health, well above perfect health. He was, just his feats alone showed that he was able to beat the top athletes easily. So in conclusion, we can see that from this, as long as Spec is motivated, he may very well, at the very least, live a much longer life than anybody else. So thank you all for watching. This has been Just How Strong Was Spec. And if you like the video, leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe. If you have any criticisms, leave it down below. Let me know how I can improve. And until next time, this has been Cow Kings, signing off.